Welcome to the very first episode of the Layman's Guide to the World Cup. My name is Henry, and I want to bring you on an adventure. Um, I know usually this time of year when we do have the World Cup, which is every 4 years, there's a lot of people that get interested and kind of want to know what's this all about. They may not watch soccer all the time, or they're maybe just be World Cup fans. But it's an opportunity for people to get into the sport. And I know a lot of friends, a lot of family who don't really know much, but they want to know much. So I hope with this podcast for the World Cup that you can, it brings some depth. It allows you to know what you're talking about as you're watching. It helps you get excited and invested into different teams. You're not confused by what's going on because it is a little different. Especially this World Cup, there's a lot of new things that have been added and a new format. So I hope this brings a lot of clarity as whether you're someone that watches soccer all the time or someone that has never watched soccer in your life. So with that, the 2026 World Cup will be the biggest World Cup that's ever been. This year, normally in past World Cup years, it's been 32 teams. This year, it's been expanded to 48 teams. Usually, there's only one host country. This year, there are 3 host countries. So, already, that's massive difference to what's usually happens because 48 is not easily divisible to make knockout rounds. So, there's already complications there with the number of teams that are coming into this World Cup. But I hope I can bring clarity to this massive tournament. So we'll start out with the hosts. The hosts are the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Like I said before, this is the first time they've ever done 3 hosts. And this seems like on the future World Cups that are coming down the pipeline, this is going to be a normal thing. Before this, we've had 2 hosts in 2002 with Japan and South Korea. But other than that, it's usually one nation. With last time in 2022 was Qatar. Before that in 2018 was Russia. We had Brazil and South Africa. Those are all the recent memory World Cups. So a lot of one team. So 3 changes the dynamic a little more, especially with how giant of a country the United States, Mexico, and Canada are each individually. It adds a lot of more travel, so that's going to be a factor with a lot of these players. The last World Cup was in Qatar. Qatar's not a big country. But now you have a country the size of Europe, a country that's bigger than us in Canada, and a country that's also about the same size. So imagine like 3 Europes put together. And this is, you got to travel that. So there will be 15 host cities, with the most being in the United States. We have Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, that's us, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Miami, New York City, but really it's East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's not really New York City, which that's where the final will be played. You have Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle. Then Mexico, you have Guadalajara, Mexico City, and Monterrey, which Monterrey may have the most beautiful stadium aesthetic-wise for the World Cup. They're right up against the mountains. So you can see from the stadium, you can see the mountains in the background, and it's gorgeous. So look out for that if you watch a game that is taking place in Monterrey. Then in Canada, we have both Toronto and Vancouver. So majority of the games will be played in the United States, with them having 10 host cities. The reason for the imbalance is really just the United States' abundance when it comes to ready-made stadiums with massive amounts of hotels around them, and just our infrastructure allows us to do this a little more than Mexico and Canada. So it made the most sense, and kind of the World Cup is split into 3 regions. Um, so most of the group stage, like for example, the United States will, with their group, they're playing on the West Coast, and that's it for the group stage. That's not counting the knockout rounds, but it's just those that are on that side they'll be playing in. And there's like a middle one where it's like, all the Texas cities of Dallas and Houston. You got Mexico as well, and Kansas City, and they're all this one corridor. And then you have another corridor that's where Miami, Atlanta, all the way up to Boston, East Rutherford, and Toronto. So it's just trying to keep teams so there's less travel, which I think is smart, especially with teams that aren't used to traveling this much, or at least the distance out and out every couple of days. And it does take a toll on players. Now, there are 6 confederations, and confederations, they basically expand a continent, and it's kind of how they organize, how FIFA organizes different tournaments, from club tournaments. You have the iconic UEFA Champions League, which is a club competition that happens every year, to you have the Euros, you have the United States Gold Cup. All these different things are organized by the Confederation, and World Cup qualifying is organized by the Confederations. So, based on the Confederation's strength and size, they get allocated a certain number of berths into the World Cup. Our first one is AFC, which is Asia. They get 9 spots in this World Cup, which allows them Australia, Iran, Iraq, Japan, Jordan, which they're making their World Cup debut, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, and Uzbekistan, which Uzbekistan is also making their World Cup debut. Then you have CAF, which gets 10 berths, which this is Africa. You have Algeria, you have Cape Verde, which is they're making their World Cup debut this time around. You have the Congo, you have Egypt, you have Ghana, you have Ivory Coast, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia. Then you have CONCACAF, which I think is the most fun one to say, which is us, that is North America, Central America, and the Caribbean islands. We get 6 berths, which that 3 of those are the hosts, with Canada, Mexico, and the United States, but the other countries will be Curacao, which they're making their World Cup debut, Haiti, and Panama. Then we got CONMEBOL, which arguably is the strongest. They have 10 countries in CONMEBOL, which is South America, and they have 6 berths into the tournament. Does that give you an idea? Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, and Uruguay. And they're the only region, I think, where every country in that region has at least played in one World Cup. Also makes that crazy. A crazy stat. Then you have Oceania, which is the first year that Oceania has a guaranteed spot in the World Cup. Before that, they would always have to play another nation, like another region, to see, usually Asia, see if they qualify. So this year, that'll be New Zealand. Then you have the most iconic region, which has the most spots, and that's UEFA. They have 16 spots. So, and that'll be Australia, Belgium, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Czech Republic, or Czechia, however you want to do it, England, France, Germany, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Scotland, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, or Turkey, however you want to do it. So, and just to give you an idea, because most, at least in the group stage, most countries, more than likely, they could play one, usually it's Europe, where they play, a European country will play a European country. But for the most part, they don't play another country from the region, so just kind of give you a power ranking of the different confederations. Like the weakest confederation is Oceania. Then it goes us at CONCACAF, where we have a large number of countries in CONCACAF, but half of the countries in CONCACAF, majority of their players are amateurs, and what I mean by that is that these people aren't paid to play soccer. they have a 9 to 5 and then play. This is just on top of their normal job. So that's the main reason why CONCACAF is considered weak. And really, until the last couple of years, it was really just U.S., Mexico. Canada has come into its own. And we usually have a Central American team. In this case, it would be Panama right now, who's dominant. In the years past, we've had Costa Rica. We had a strong Honduras at one point. So it really just depends, with the region. It's not the most strongest region, but it's making some strides. Then third and fourth, it's hard to pick one or the other, which that's CAF and the AFC. It's Africa and Asia. Africa has some iconic star players. You think of Mo Salah, you think of Hakimi, you think of Sadio Mane. You have some strong players, but the thing is that they're kind of African nations are more focused on their star power and athleticism, and then Asia, they may not have the star players, but usually the iconic part of Asian teams is they're always well organized, very tactical, and they can punch way above their weight. So these two sets, I would say, are pretty even when going up against each other. Then you have UEFA. UEFA is only below CONMEBOL because of its size. I think there's 54 member nations. And they have some member nations that will never make it to the World Cup, like San Marino, for example, or Andorra, or Monaco, or Liechtenstein. So they have a lot of weak nations. So pound for pound, CONMEBOL South America is, I would say, the strongest, because for their World Cup qualifying, it's always like a big soap opera. Anyone can beat anyone on any given day and kind of take it. But, they do have their traditional powerhouse, which that is Argentina or Brazil. But the other teams, they'll give you a run for your money. And they can never be counted out. So, we got all the nations. We now know all the nations that are partaking in this World Cup. Now let's get down to the format. So, how this World Cup works is there is going to be 12 groups. And each group will have 4 nations. Everyone is thrown into pots based on rankings and confederations. And people are picked out of 1, 2, 3, 4 pot to then make up these groups. In years past, the first and second place teams were the ones that made it on to the next round, into the round of 16. Made sense because 32 can be divided in half, and it's 16. Well, now there's 48. 48 does not make an even knockout round. So, with this World Cup, the 8 best third-place teams will be moving on. Which then that just makes it 32 teams that are moving on. So there's more. It's not as dire of a situation, but it could let some teams have some Cinderella stories, like a Curacao, for example, or an Uzbekistan them making their first World Cup, and they made it to the knockout round, which would be a big accomplishment for these nations. So it's really dependent on how everything falls. I don't know. A lot of us don't know because like I said, this is the first time we've done a World Cup like this. Now, from there, it'll be the round of 32, round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. With soccer tournaments, there's always a third place game. So the losers of the semifinal will play each other because we do bronze, silver, and gold. Pass out first, second, third. Now, for points for the group stage, a win is worth 3 points. A tie is worth 1 point, because remember, soccer can tie. And then if you lose, you get 0 points. So any team can make it from 0 to 9 points in any spectrum in that. The tiebreakers will be goal differential. Goal differential means goals scored minus goals allowed. So how many goals you scored, subtracted by how many goals you've let in, will then give you a goal differential, and that'll figure out if there needs to be a tiebreaker in points, because there's two teams on 4 points. Then from there, if that's still an issue, they'll do head-to-head how these two teams play against each other. And if, this one team beat that other team, they'll be pushed ahead in the rankings. So that's how they'll decide how everyone will be. So every game matters with the third place, because you don't want to be the fourth place team and not move on, because there'll be very few. And there'll also be a fight for third place, because you want to get optimum points, because you don't want to be the four third place teams that don't make it through. But with that, in the knockout stages, when that happens, because there can't be ties in the knockout rounds, games will be played for 90 minutes with added time, which I'll explain added time in a second. And then it'll be, if it's still tied after 90 minutes, it will go on to an extra period, which is 2 15-minute halves. And if it's still tied after that, we will go to penalties. A penalty shootout, which that's where a lot of drama can happen, because it's basically once there's a double miss, that's when the other team wins. So missing 2 penalties. Once it gets past the first 5, the rules change a little bit, and it's just sudden death. Who missed first? So, but what is interesting about this World Cup is because mostly Europeans have complained, because United States and Mexico summers are hot, especially for those of us in Houston. We know what that is, but we have a covered stadium. Is that these matches are going to be in quarters. What I mean by that is, in the middle of each half, we will be doing a water break, which it can be used as, because there's no timeouts in soccer. If you didn't know that, there's no timeouts in soccer. A coach can't call. The coach is stuck on the sidelines. They can yell at their players. They can tell a sub that's coming in, hey, tell this to so-and-so, or if the captain comes over and talks to the coach, it can be passed along, but there's no real way to have communications except for at half. But now with this, because the Senegal and the United States game yesterday, because it was a friendly match, which is like a practice match, preseason, however you want to put it, for people that don't watch soccer. Pochettino brought out his laptop, and the American players were all around him during the water break, and they were talking over the, before water break was done, which the water break, I think, is like 2 or 3 minutes. So potentially this can be a game changer for tactics during the World Cup, because the coach can actually communicate. They now get to communicate before the game starts, in the middle of the first half, at halftime, and in the middle of the second half. So it can be a game changer for this World Cup. We'll see how that affects just about everyone. The other thing is this. You're like, extra time, Henry, what did you mean? Or, added minutes, what did you mean by that? So in soccer, the clock never stops. But there's an extra referee that keeps track of all the ball's gone out, or they're setting up for a kick, or there's an injury, or there's a brawl, which happens sometimes. And the time adds up, and at the end of the 45 minutes, the main referee will be told, hey, there's 5 minutes of added time. So he'll start keeping the clock, and 5 more minutes will be played out. That's the additional time. The World Cup is usually more legalistic about the minutes, so there's potential, especially last World Cup, like 10-minute added time periods. So that means like anything can happen. Some crazy stuff can happen. So that'll add to the game as well. Now, you may be wondering, Henry, where can I watch these games? Well, if here in America, you can either watch it on Fox, Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2 in English. All these are in English. They won't be on any streaming services at all. Unless you have like the Fox Sports app through your cable provider or Dish. So it's not like in Spanish you can watch with Telemundo, but also because Telemundo is owned by NBC Universal, it will also be on Peacock to stream, but it'll be in Spanish, not English. So it kind of sucks that there's no streaming options for English. That's okay. We'll survive. Now, what I want to do with the episodes going forward, because the 11th is when the World Cup starts, June 11th. So every day there'll be a new episode leading into the World Cup. Each episode is going to go over a different group. And within these groups, we'll talk about which nations are in them, talk about mascots and nicknames, like Japan's the Blue Samurai, or Australia, they're called the Socceroos, or us Americans are the Yanks. So it's just kind of fun. You can think of nicknames for these nations. We'll also talk about the best performances in the World Cup that these nations have ever had. We'll talk about what they did in the last World Cup, because, it is a lot about what have you done for me lately. We'll also talk about their last major tournament as well. Same goes in that idea, what have you done for me lately? And these major tournaments are, they're the competitions of the Confederation. So what have you done at the Euros, the Copa, whatever it is, and these always happen within the 4 years between each World Cup. So like I said, what have you done lately? We'll also talk about how they qualified for the World Cup, because that can be a big factor. Like Norway is one of my dark horse picks. Erling Haaland, in 8 games for World Cup qualifying for Norway, scored 16 goals. That's a lot of goals. And if you want to think about this, on top of that, is Norway had 11 different scorers in 8 games for the World Cup qualifying. And they were in a group with Italy, and Italy did not qualify for the World Cup. Norway destroyed Italy 4-0. So, World Cup qualifying is another factor of what have you done for me lately. And it tells the story of how these nations got to the World Cup. Because usually World Cup qualifying starts 2 years before the World Cup within each confederation. So, what have you done for me lately as a national team? This shows. We also talk about the vibe. What's the vibe of the team going in? Are they feeling a little down? Are the fans are excited? Or there's been major injuries, so this is going to affect the team. We'll talk about the big 3 players, or at least who I think are going to be the big 3 players. So you kind of know who are the major players in this World Cup for each national team. And then we'll talk about where I think the likely finish is, what's considered a complete failure, and what is considered a major success for these teams. Which this will all play into what's going on. Now, I am excited. We'll have on Thursday, we will have a specific episode just going over the United States. We'll go through the roster. We'll go through all the tactics and everything like that. I'm doing it with my friend Ben, since I imagine majority of my audience is just wanting to know, so what about the U.S.? That's who we're watching. That's our nation. So we'll do a deep dive into that. Now, once June 11th, once that begins, there'll be an episode every Tuesday. And it'll just be recapping the week of games, what's going on, what are the standings, is there any big upsets. Also, we'll be talking about here's the games to watch for this upcoming week. There are going to be some really interesting games. And then once that ends, the group stage ends, we'll take a look at we'll do an episode focusing on the knockouts, and we'll do a recap after each round of the knockouts. So when the round of 32 is done, we'll focus on that. We'll have an episode of round 16, go so on and so forth, and we'll ultimately recap the World Cup. I'll even make up awards for the World Cup, and we can give those out to some countries. It'll be very prestigious. The Laymen's Guide Awards to the World Cup, be very special. So I hope all of this can be a blessing to you and help you get deeper into the World Cup and get more excited about, what's happening in our country this year. If you're in Houston, they are doing a fan fest that opens on June 11th. There's a lot of free things to do there and paid things as well. There's also, I know NASA. I think NASA and Space Center Houston has a cool exhibit there to kind of show that we're Space City. So it'll really be about exposing other people to Houston and just also celebrating the World Cup. There'll also be a giant screen. I saw a picture of it, projector screen that all the games at all time will be played on. So that's also an opportunity for you to watch with a ton of fans. Bring your own seats if you're going to do that. Like camping seats, the fold up stuff. But it'll also be hot in the Houston summer, so that's up to you if you want to do that. But it is a neat little thing that they're doing. Also, we will be hosting a Netherlands game, and they're doing the Orange March. The Orange March is an iconic walk that the Netherlands national team does before their games. For us, it'll start at Rice University and go all the way to NRG. And it'll be 2.5 mile walk in a sea of orange, which anyone's welcome to participate in. So it's just an iconic tradition of the Dutch. I saw a video of their bus that they use for the march arriving in America. So I think that's hilarious that they bring that thing everywhere. It's a double-decker bus. Those are just some neat experiences. Also, if there's any local soccer pubs, there's always going to be a great time watching the games, or you can just watch in the comfort of your own home. I will have a link below. I used AI and made kind of like a Excel spreadsheet that you can print out for all the matches. So that's what I do. It's easy to keep control of. And then I had AI turn that spreadsheet into an ICS file. If you don't know what ICS, that's usually you'll get one to import into your Google Calendar or Outlook. So for me, like now in my calendar on my phone, every World Cup match is in my calendar, so I know when all the games are being played. And also remind me 30 minutes before, like, hey, this game's coming up. Do you want to watch it? So both those you can use. I made them for myself, so I'm happy to pass those on. So look down in the comments below for that as well. Well, I hope, like I said, I hope this is a blessing for you in getting more into the World Cup. And, I'm excited. For me, it's a creative outlet. So I love talking about soccer, and this gives me an opportunity to just talk about it and get my feelings out there. The frustrations, the anger, the excitement, all of it. So I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode where you look over Group A. And Group A is Mexico's group. So, I know there's some interest there with especially us being Houston. So I'll see y'all tomorrow.